Almost everything you picture when you think of the Vikings, of Napoleon, of the French Revolution was invented long after the fact. Some of it by an opera, some of it by a cartoonist, some of it by a novelist who needed a good scene. Let me show you how much of history is just confident repetition. Start with the Vikings. The horns on the helmet. You can see them right now in your head. There is not a single horned helmet in the entire archaeological record of the Viking Age. Not one. The image comes from a costume designer named Carl Emil Doepler, who put cow horns on the helmets for a Wagner opera in 1826. A German opera dressed an entire civilization, and nobody checked. Napoleon was short. Everyone knows it. He was 5'7", which was completely average for a Frenchman of his time. The confusion is units. He was measured in French inches, and the French inch was longer than the English one, and nobody converted it. Then a British cartoonist named Gilray drew him tiny for years as wartime propaganda. 200-year-old propaganda still beats the actual measurement. Let them eat cake. The most famous sentence of the French Revolution. Marie Antoinette never said it. The line appears in Rousseau's writing around 1765 about an unnamed princess he may have invented. At that point, Marie Antoinette was 9 years old and living in Austria. Nobody connected the quote to her until 1843, 50 years after they cut her head off. Nero fiddled while Rome burned. Two problems. The fiddle would not be invented for another 1,000 years, and Nero was 60 kilometers away when the fire started. Our own source for the story says the singing was a rumor he could not confirm. What Nero actually did was open his gardens to the homeless and ship in grain to drop the price of bread. Notice the pattern yet? Every one of those is a good story that beat a true one. Here is the biggest. Columbus proved the earth was round, sailing off to prove the doubters wrong. None of it happened. Educated Europeans had known the earth was a sphere for over 1,000 years. Universities taught it. The scene where he faces down a room of flat earth monks was written in 1828 by a novelist who made it up. The real argument was about the size of the earth, and Columbus had that wrong. You can see the Great Wall of China from space. It is the one fact everyone knows about it. The claim is older than space flight itself. Then we actually went. The Apollo astronauts saw nothing. China's own first astronaut orbited 14 times and said he could not see it. The wall, at its widest, is 9 meters across. The Romans had a room where they went to vomit so they could keep eating. The vomitorium. It never existed. A vomitorium is a passage in an amphitheater, named because it spewed out the crowd. Not stomachs, people. There are no ancient source uses the word any other way. A novelist put the wrong meaning in a book in 1929, and here we are. And the witches of Salem burned at the stake. 19 people were executed at Salem, and not one of them was burned. They were hanged, every single one. Burning witches was a European thing. In the colonies, it was a criminal trial, and the punishment was the rope. So why does this happen? Why does the wrong version always win? Because the wrong version is better. It's cleaner. Horns look fierce. A short tyrant is funny. A queen who says, "Let them eat cake," is a perfect villain. The truth is usually more complicated and less satisfying. And complicated does not travel. The clean lie does. And once it's in a textbook, or a painting, or a film, it stops being a claim and starts being furniture. Nobody questions the furniture. Here's the uncomfortable part. You didn't decide to believe any of these. You absorbed them from a cartoon, a costume, a movie, a offhand line from a teacher who absorbed it the same way. Every one of us is carrying a museum of things that were never true, and we have no idea which exhibits are fake. So, what do you actually do with that? You get a little slower to be certain, not cynical. Cynical is just gullible with extra steps. Slower. When something is too clean, too perfect a story, too good a villain, that neatness is itself a clue. Reality has loose ends. Propaganda doesn't. The Vikings didn't have horns. Napoleon wasn't short. She never said it. And the fact that you knew all three and knew them with total confidence is the most interesting thing here. What else are you sure about?